Hi there. I have just finished reading In Jest by John Dickson Carr, and I really didn't love it. 2 out of 5 because I did read the whole thing and I did finish it. There's a whole heap of reasons that I didn't love it, and most of them are kind of integral to the book and the writing. Anyway, the book itself is this rather nice old penguin with that rather horrific clown face on it. As images go, this is distinctive. And if you are scared of clowns, no one in my family really loves clowns, I've got to tell you, then this is going to be a very effective cover. It is a crime that's still focus, non-focus, never mind. It's crime series number 250. And while this book was originally published in 1932, and boy does that show, my particular edition is from 1967. How did I come to read it? That's probably the first and foremost problem with why I didn't like it. Because I went to my bookshelf and I was really in the mood for something contemporary. I've read a lot of old stuff recently. I'm reading an anthology of Michael Moorcock short stories from the early 900s. I wanted something contemporary and I was really inclined towards hard sci-fi. So from wanting contemporary hard sci-fi, I somehow picked up this from the 30s. And that's not the book's fault, but I didn't enjoy it. Penguin is almost certainly one that I inherited from my parents, and the fact that it's in this good a condition probably means that no one in my family much liked it. I'd thought I'd read all of my parents' crime novels, so the fact that I don't remember a single second of this book indicates that either I read it a long time ago and didn't like it, or I started it and didn't like it. Just generally not my favourite. I'm really sorry, John Dickson Carr. Apparently he's kind of iconic. He's according to Wikipedia, thank you Wikipedia, I do contribute to you. He was born in 1906, boy does that show, and he died in 1977. American author of detective stories, used a whole heap of pseudonyms, lived in England for a number of years, and grouped among British-style mystery writers. Apparently, many of his characters and settings were England, though I read on another site that this is his 5th novel, and up to now he'd always published novels set in Paris. It felt very American to me. It does have one English character in it, but you only know he's English because he keeps telling you. Okay, so crime fiction. I do like crime fiction. I do have a lot of it. I tend to prefer the older stuff as well. So how much I disliked this was a bit of a surprise. It's like you've got a time of day when you've finished everything. You've got an hour to sit down and just read. And instead of dashing towards my book and reading lamp, I was finding excuses to do other things. And that's never a good sign. So Golden Age mysteries, while I normally like them, like Golden Age science fiction, if you read them, you have to read them in the context of the era in which they were written, not in the context of 2024, soon to be 2025, because everything has changed. Moore's concepts, everything is just different. And from the 30s, all the things in it that feel stereotyped or generic or tired, they wouldn't have been these things in the 30s, and I can usually read past that, but with this one, not really. The characters weren't bad. The story was that one of those convoluted, what do they call them? Locked room mysteries, or maybe whodunits. You've got all this information, all these characters, and you've got a main character called Jeff Merle, who's there because he used to be a friend of the family. And he's dashing around being a complete Watson about things, not seeing things that are really obvious to the reader. And then in the end comes in this character, the allegedly English, what's his name? What is his name? I've forgotten it. It doesn't matter. And he sort of deus ex machina the whole thing together. And we get a post-mortem explanation of the whole thing, pardon the pun, after the actual case is solved. Throughout the solving of the case, it kind of felt to me as if this would make a really good stage play, because essentially you've only got 5 or 6 characters. You never have more than 3 or 4 on the stage at any one time. You've only got 2 or 3 settings with a couple of marginal ones like the cellar and the attic that pop in once or twice. It's mostly people around standing or thinking. I think it would make an excellent stage play. I couldn't see any evidence that it had ever been made into one, but I think it'd work better that way almost than as a novel, because the novel, at least by contemporary standards, just keeps running on the same thing. And if you're going to have someone emoting at you, it's more fun to watch that on the stage, actually. Even though the writing isn't bad, it's not spectacular. Oh, there's one other thing I want to mention about the writing. I forgot to make a note of it at the time. So John Dickson Carr does this thing. We have a whole heap of characters talking at each other, and a whole heap of Merle inventing strange castles of fantasy inside of his head about what people could or couldn't have done that make no sense to a modern reader. And then we'll all of a sudden get this paragraph where apparently someone told Carr, oh, you have to describe your surroundings. So in the middle of Merle interviewing people, all of a sudden we get this paragraph of how the snow looks falling on the ground outside, or the street lights turning on, or whatever. It's never well integrated with the story, and while they're fine, they feel like someone trying hard to do something they've been told they ought to do. So I didn't love that. Now, what is the plot? It's a whodunit. Jeff Marl is some American who's been away. He's come back to the, I guess, smallish town from which or middle-sized town in which he grew up. And he gets told that Judge Quayle, who he used to know, wants to see him. So he goes off to the Quayle household. He's welcomed on the door by one of the 3 daughters of the house, who seems odd and strange and doesn't really want to see him or something. He goes in to see Judge Quayle, who offers him a drink, and they're sitting in the library or the whatever talking, and then Quayle ingests poison and collapses. After that, you've got this dance by numbers of Jeff Marl. You've got Judge Quayle, who's been poisoned but survives because his son-in-law is Dr. Witters or something like that. Anyway, he married the older, pretty daughter who Jeff remembers from his childhood. There's another younger daughter who's the one he liked. There's a middle-aged or maybe older daughter who he met at the doorway. There's a middle son who's the good son and has done everything that his father wanted him to do. There's a young son who's the bad son and left the house and everyone's upset about. There's the wife upstairs who also gets poisoned. And so there's poisonings and there's bad stuff happening everywhere. It all seems to revolve around the broken hand of a marble statue of Caligula who was done by someone in the past. But to the modern reader, I've got to say, that feels like a very, very red herring that is starting to stink. And in fact, most of the red herrings that Carr throws at you do feel like they are not great and obfuscating the whole thing. So I can't blame the author for that. And many other books that I've read are the same. It's like people make assumptions and the reader's going, wait, what? That makes no sense. You've had 2 or 3 poisonings in a house and no one's bothered to search the house. The first person nearly dies and the family are trying to avoid calling the police, though they call the doctor. Who brings the police? Only the police aren't the police. There's some random stranger who doesn't know how to investigate. There's all this stuff. And to the modern reader, a lot of it doesn't make sense. And I didn't hate it. 2 stars out of 5. Remember, that's not bad, but I didn't love it. There's also that delightful early 900s insistence that all women are hysterical and scream a lot. So at one stage, the doctor is investigating, because I guess that's a thing that doctors do in the 1930s. And he says to one of the daughters, now, what is the actual wording? It was page 88. And I mean, we know that in the early 900s, all women were hysterical and none of them were logical and all the rest of it, blah, blah, blah. You can do that and make it okay. But you can do it and make it a little bit sad too. And this was a little bit sad. Where are we? Bosh, says the doctor. The doctor says bosh and stuff and nonsense a lot, which is his main character development. I can't really say that there's much more of it. And where is it? Going around circles, sit down, Matt, stop pacing around, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yes. Sorry, long silence, which is perhaps one of the better things about... Oh, here we go. Hello, Virginia, the doctor broke off. He looked at her sharply as she turned around. How are you feeling, girl? No scenes now. We want brains. Because a girl who's just had both her parents poisoned and seen a dead body obviously is going to create a scene. And how dare she have emotions, right? I'm not even that person, but the repeated hysterics and the repeated all girls are dumb feeling. Plus the fact that it keeps making complete Furbies. It's like if you've got someone who died an hour ago and their brain is still leaking and their wound is still leaking blood, your modern 2024 person is going to go, hang on, one of these things is not like the other one. I don't even read that many mysteries. So a lot of the tropes didn't bother me as much as they could have. Anyway, sorry. I'm basically running off at the mouth about how much I didn't like this apparently very beloved author, Golden Age author, mystery writer. And my first hint of that was when I added on to Goodreads and I realised that there have been recent publications. So apparently he's famous enough and beloved enough that he is being reprinted today. I won't be getting one. I quite like my old copy despite the disturbing clown face. I don't feel that I need to read any more John Dickson Carr, but I can't promise. It might happen. You never know. With omnivorous reading, all things are possible. So the cover photograph is by Ian... White writing on green. Ian Yeomans, which is fine. On the back we've got an author's photo by Camera Press, which I've got to show you because it's nearly as creepy as the cover picture. And far, far creepier than the picture of Dickson that you get online. Go look at that. He wasn't as terrifying as this picture suggests. So, Golden Age mystery. Apparently not for me right now. Should have picked up a David Brin. I nearly picked up a David Brin. And now I've got no idea what I want to read. Watch this space. I'm sure I'll find something. Have a great day. Read good books. Maybe even this book. If this sounds like a great book, maybe this is your book. It just wasn't my book today. So, read good books.